Hello everyone, Ryan Strong here. I'll be going over my Milestone 9/Gold build. At this point, had to make a few changes to some things that we'll briefly discuss. In Milestone 8, I had talked about the sharp turns, and I had gotten it to a point where I felt that it was working to a point that I guess I thought it should, but really wasn't working all that well still. So came up with a new idea for it. Instead of doing sharp turns, we are going instead with a trigger that when you hit that trigger, it's going to adjust your maximum speed allowed so that it kind of slows you down gradually when you get to that turn, and then you can make the turn, go through another trigger, and it'll bump right back up to the proper speed. So you allow you to go back up to the proper speed or max speed if you get close to that point. Otherwise, the other tasks were the game icon. I came up with a new game icon. I'll show you that. I came up with kind of the finishing touches to the camera pan so that it functions with a better camera pan rather than the original one that was there. The main menu, that one, unfortunately I had to revert back to the original because the plan was to implement a video like I had initially done, but with the way that move that back over, there we go. With the way that Android is set up, is it doesn't allow you to just throw a movie texture on there and utilize it. It only works for PC and possibly consoles. I'm not sure about those, but definitely does not work on Android or iOS. So I had to kind of revert back. The timed events, the explosions and such, I did a lot of work on those to get those finished, so I hope you guys enjoy those as well. So we can go ahead and look at Unity. So we have my main screen here still, like I mentioned before. It's pretty much not going to change much. So we'll move to the camera pan scene. So in the camera pan scene, we have it's still, everything is still the same view. What we have now, the camera kind of taking a different route around the track and cutting through to get to the end point so that you can start the game. I also set up to where while the camera is going, you're still going to have that skip button down here in the right, but once the actual scene is done, like the camera pan is done, it'll automatically change to a play button, which allows the player to say, okay, well, wait, is there more? If it's still a skip button, then there must be more that I need to wait for. So to alleviate that, I put a play button instead to switch to. So briefly show what that looks like here. So you got the skip button down here in the right. You got the camera that goes through the track area here, kind of pans over to the mine there, does a quick turnaround, comes over to this bridge. You see a little bit of the bridge, and then it cuts up over the mountain area here down to this mine, and then right over to the finish here where it then settles down. You got that explosion that goes off and the button changes to play. So next we will go to the CM track 1, because it's the same thing here, but it's the actual track now. So what I did for this to kind of help with the turning as well is I actually added a few things here. I added quite a few signage to help out. So you got this first sign here. It says slow, road curves ahead, caution. So something here to kind of indicate to the player, hey, maybe I should slow down a bit. And then you get up to these actual turn signs that you would see on a normal road that we have in well, throughout the world. So I have one there at that sharp turn, and then I have another one set over here to indicate that, you know, this is another one of those sharp turns. And then I added one more set over here at this turn because this is another one of those sharp turns. And I also again added the sign for slowing down as well here. With those being added, I also, like I said earlier, added a some triggers. So you've got normal speed trigger and then slow top speed trigger here. They're each attached to their own scripts, so I'll go to, hopefully it'll open up both of them, but if not, it's not a problem. I can open up the other one as well. So, yep, they're both here. Alright, so for change top speed, what I'm doing is I'm grabbing the player's transform or the bike, and I'm placing it inside the actual inspector over here where you see motorbike 2. Then I'm calling a private bike control BC just to say, okay, I'm referencing the bike control script. Then we come down to the start here and just make sure it's fully referenced properly. So BC equals my bike dot get component bike control. And then I don't use the update. I didn't delete it this time. Normally I would, but I just went ahead and added a space after everything from the end of the update and set up my own trigger. So on trigger enter, collider col. So if col, the collider, dot tag equals player. So if the player goes through that trigger or enters that trigger, then it's going to say bike settings, bike control script, bike settings, limit forward speed equals 40. The actual forward speed that's set up for limit forward speed is 200. So I set it down to 40. Typically the player is going about 70 when they get up to these points. So setting it down to 40 I felt was a good speed. Hopefully the positioning is right. If it's not, then that's just something that I have to kind of adjust the positioning a bit. And then I also destroy game object. Destroying game object is only destroying the game object that this script is on. The reason for that is because the way I have my collider set up is if there's a trigger volume you go through, the camera gets affected and it does a weird zoom in real quick and then zoom right back out as you go through it. I had this issue when I first started creating this game, so to alleviate that, I delete the actual trigger once you go through that actual trigger. And since I don't use that trigger again in this game, it works out fine. Don't have to worry about it. And then for the normal top speed, everything in here is the same except for this number here. Like I said, I put it back to 200. So we will minimize that. So I have one here that starts right as you hit that sign. So one, the player should be, as I see that, slowing the bike down a bit as they're going. And it'll also limit that top speed so that when they're going through it, if they decide to push the accelerate button as they're going, it'll still limit that top speed to that 40. And then the normal one, here we go, is shortly after the turn ends. You finish with the turn, you get up here, and it goes right back to normal for top speed so you can continue on. So this should help out a lot with getting the player to get through the course with as minimal wrecks as possible, hopefully. This is going to take quite a bit of testing on not on my part, but user testing, getting a feel for what the user's like. A lot of it's come down to, okay, well, I see this stuff works for me, but is it going to work for a user later on when they're actually playing the game? And if not, then that's something that I have to adjust and move things around to make sure that it does work. So let's look back here real quick. So I talked about the sharp turns and my change to that. So with those changes, I also got rid of the buttons that were set up for those speeds. So let me go to this canvas here so I can show that. canvas. We'll zoom in and we'll shut off the pause and the score. So, oh, for some reason that one did not get deleted. It was supposed to be shut off. I'm going to have to rebuild this, which is fine. Not a big problem there, so I will rebuild it after this video so I have a proper one. But so yeah, all of those are shut off. They're no longer functioning. I mean, they still do what I had set them up to do, but I shut them off because there's no need for them. So next, go back here again. The game icon. Alright, so for the game icon, I'm actually going to have to go into here because I created a new icon, and the icon is this here. It's now a helmet. So you see, it's now a helmet, motorcycle helmet that I found that's completely royalty free. I don't have to do anything with it. And then it is now CME instead of CMS. I was not dumb this time with it. I actually paid attention to what I was doing and put the proper lettering in there. So, no, don't want to stop that. Let's continue on. I'll close that out that way. There we go. Camera pan, we went over, got a nice view of it, and timed events. Alright, that's the next thing to show. So with timed events, what I've done is I've set up to where as you, let me turn these things back on so I don't forget. Alright, as you go through the track, you have specific timed events that happen, right? And what I've done to make them a little bit more user-friendly and understandable is I've set up positions for certain things to happen. So, oh, I also have a sharp turn thing right there. Sorry, I'm going all over the place. I have another set of kind of sharp turns because it isn't really a sharp turn, but it is pretty hefty, especially if you end up going full speed, because this is a pretty straight track here. I mean, you can cut corners and just do straight almost the whole way. So you can get up pretty high speed, get to the end there, and then wreck without even meaning to. So anyway, every single fire that you see in here, except for the fire that is this actual lamp right here, the light for the lamp, but every single fire that you see over here, the smoke that comes up, which is this one, not that one. Come on. I think it's this one. That's an explosion. Well, I have a fire, I have a smoke over here, which you've all seen in the past. All of it's shut off. So when you start the game, it automatically disables so that nothing happens, you don't see anything, and it's not there. The reason for that, same thing with a lot of this debris. The reason for that was because it's not realistic. You know, when you would get around this corner and you would, before you hit the trigger, you would end up seeing all this smoke and stuff already before you'd see these explosions going off. So what I did was I set it to where they all now go off, turn on together at the same time when you hit that trigger, which makes it look like, okay, something bad just happened there as well. So, and then the kind of the last thing I guess I did, or one of the last things I did, was the fire that used to be over here, the explosions that happened, I got rid of. They're no longer there, and now instead you have just some nice fire on the ground to indicate that, okay, well, that already exploded, so now I'm starting off here, there's fire around me. So let me go ahead and start this and run you through it real quick. It's not going to run through because I have to change my controls. And we will change those back to simple. Alright, and we will go through this really quickly, and I can show you these settings change as well. So this value right here, limit forward speed, it's at 200 right now. So I'm going to go through the track you guys have heard all this noise before, so I'm going to turn that sound off. We're going to get around this area, and I'll tell you when you can kind of look over at the forward speed limit here. So right now it's still at 200, and I just hit that trigger, so now it says 40. So my max speed here is only going to be able to go up to 40, which makes it to where that turn is much easier to make. And I hit a trigger again, now it's back up to 200. So I can continue on, go through this race, and be able to hopefully complete it a little bit easier than if I was to not change that. Another thing I need to change is actually that minecart. It's so I just hit another trigger and it went to 40 again, and now it's back up to 200 again. But that minecart back there, I set it up to where its adjusted speed is based off of how fast your motorcycle is going. So if your motorcycle is going over a specific speed, the speed of the minecart jumps up to 10. But if you are going under that speed, then obviously it goes back to 8, which is the normal speed. I'm thinking about turning it back to original because I've been fiddling around with some of the physics on it lately, and as you noticed at that point in time just then, it jumped up and it was up in the air when it shouldn't be. So my max speed is going to tune down, and it's going to pick back up right there. So it allowed me to make that turn much easier. I didn't even press the brake that time, which was something that I wanted to be able to do. I didn't want to be forced to push the brake. That time I pushed the brake so I could get around that turn because I don't have a trigger. But now you see all those explosions going off, and makes it a little bit more in depth for the player. They can get into the race a little bit more. And we're coming up on the end here. And I also fixed, I just turned the sound back on. As you can hear, there is no sound. So it worked out. So yeah, I think the limit forward speed works out really well. So I'm utilizing that now instead of using the sharp turns, because it'll make it to where the player should hopefully have less crashes, or if they do have crashes, and a lot of it's because of things that they've done, not necessarily because they were just going the speed that they thought they should or that they should be going, because it's being limited a little bit. So hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I will have the second video with the device playing it up after I rebuild this, since I had to make those changes to the main canvas since the one thing didn't turn off. So otherwise, have a good day.